Hello and welcome back, fellow metalheads. My name is Mike, and I'm happy to bring you the second installment of our new series called In Conversation With, where I interview talented members of the metal scene who contribute to our growing Canadian ecosystem. Today we travel to Calgary, Alberta, to talk with a guy who's been to hell and back for his music. Skyler Mills is the founder of the Canadian Thrash band When Minds Develop, or W.M.D for short, and guitarist for Ravenous 𝘞𝘠 and the Outlaws of Ravenhurst. The last few years have brought on some of the hardest moments of his life, from having his life threatened to arson and almost losing a bandmate to a serious accident. Fueled by their strength, ferocious energy, and love for metal, the band have a new EP near completion called From the Ashes, and have used the extra time off touring to work on their sophomore album, which is set to be a beastly successor to 2018's Lethal Revenge. You can check out W.M.D and the rest of Skyler's projects on all social networks, and I'll be including links in the description. And now, let the thrash begin. So Skyler, again, I want to thank you for making the time and being a part of this podcast. As I mentioned before, I do know your band from discovering it on my own earlier this year. And so I'm looking forward to chatting with you about thrash, the metal scene, and a little bit more about what inspires you as a musician. So welcome.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, man. So one of the things I always love to chat with people about is essentially how they got into metal. And so before this, we started chatting a little bit about how Black Sabbath was one of those spark moments of what the hell is this music? I need to know more.
Yes, definitely.
So I'm really curious to know if you could kind of take us back to your first exposure to metal. When was it? What are some of the bands that you started listening to at the beginning?
Yeah, for sure. So let's go all the way back to about 1997. I think I was about 4 or 5 years old. Just typical kid. But my mother gave me this tape with a couple Black Sabbath songs on it. It had Iron Man, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and War Pigs on it.
Nice.
And I had a little tape player, and I put it in, and I just was addicted to the songs, specifically War Pigs. I love that song and Tony Iommi's riffs, and it was a pretty weird time in my life. So the music really helped me, even at the age of 4 or 5, and I was going through quite a lot, and I just remember feeling very good listening to that music all the time and just rewinding it. I'd use a little pencil. I'd ask my mom for a pencil, and you just rewind it and listen to it over and over again, and from there I was hooked. Then some shuffling around in my life happened, and I ended up not living with my mom after the age of 5. And that tape was lost forever, basically. And then I rediscovered kind of heavy music again when I was about 14 years old.
Yeah, it always seems that parents usually spark that initial discovery of music, and then somehow later on in life you discover it again, and it opens up new possibilities. So that's pretty cool to hear. So around 14 then, since that's when you started going back into listening to metal, is that around the same time where you decided to start picking up how to, play guitar or sing?
Yeah, pretty much. So after I was 5, I think I moved out to Nova Scotia when I was 7. And then I moved to Calgary when I was 13, 14 years old. And I moved with my dad to meet my dad here in Calgary, and he was into heavier music, Metallica and stuff like that, Slayer, and yeah, he kind of just exposed me to it, and he was a musician himself, so uh, I definitely wanted to play guitar, and he got me my first guitar, uh, and I just dove straight in, and I think it was December 2008 or 9 or something like that. Metallica came on their World Magnetic tour, and that was my first concert
Oof,
that
nice.
I ever seen. So he bought me floor tickets with my best friend um, at the time, and it just blew my mind. I had no idea what I was in for. I only knew a little bit of Metallica
Mm.
because I remember going to him, and he asked me, what kind of music do you want on your MP3 player? And I said, well, I don't know. And he's like, well, what do you like? And I said, well, I like Black Sabbath, like something like that riff that goes like War Pigs, dan 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 dan. And he was like, oh, I know. And he put on Master of Puppets, and it was the
Oh
exact
yeah.
same riff but faster and more energy. And he cranked it up, and then he showed me Iron Maiden, and I was just gone. I was like, what is this? This is insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would have been August, and in December, I went to Metallica, and I was right on the floor. And actually, I was only 14, so I was pretty short. And I remember there was a lot of tall guys on the floor. Um, and my grandma was actually working the like little box, like a penalty box, where people in wheelchairs would sit to watch the show.
Hmm.
And there wasn't anybody in there, so I saw her, and she let me like stand on the boards.
Okay.
So I had a perfect view of the whole entire show.
Damn.
Yeah, yeah, it just blew my mind. And
Yeah, that's definitely a great first concert. On my side, if I remember correctly, the first show I ever went to, also thrash, because that's like the first gateway that I had into metal,
oh, cool.
was Exodus, Rob Zombie, and Slayer.
Nice. I was also at that one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that was a wicked show.
yeah, for sure. That was at the time where I same as you, like Exodus, for example, like one of my favorite bands now. I only
Yeah,
knew like one song,
yeah.
and they were the opening band, and so they just came on stage and just destroyed it. And I was like, if this is the opening band, I don't know if I'm ready for this, you know?
That was your first concert, or your first like heavy concert?
First heavy concert.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a wicked concert. I remember that one specifically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a good time.
Exodus is always great live. Like, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to their newer stuff. I think they're coming out with well, it just got recently announced that they are releasing an album next year. So
Oh, really? Oh, I've been
yeah,
waiting. I've been waiting.
yeah. So hopefully 2021, things get back to normal and
Yeah.
shows will start again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
First time I saw Exodus was my second concert, which was the Megadeth 20th anniversary. Rest in peace.
Okay.
I hated Megadeth at the time. I was a total Metallica fanboy after that concert. I was just sold, and there was some weird thing where Metallica fans didn't like Megadeth fans or something. I don't know.
Right.
I didn't know what I was thinking, but uh, again, my dad, he surprised me with Megadeth tickets, and I didn't like Megadeth, but when I went there, I witnessed what thrash can do.
Hmm.
Metallica was like the big show, but when I went to see Exodus, Testament, and Megadeth on that old school night in a small venue, just the energy and the people, that's what really made a difference to me. And I kind of like decided right there and then that I was going to start a thrash band.
Damn. That makes sense. And actually, that leads me into the question that I wanted to ask you, because when I was doing some research, the band today is called When Minds Develop, also short WMD.
Mhm.
But I saw that it was originally called Shrapnal, and so I was curious to know, is that the first band that you ever started?
Yeah, that's the first band. Yep.
Interesting. All right. Can you,
Mhm.
so from the, the two thrash shows leading into the decision of making a thrash band, can you tell us a little bit about like that story on like how everything got started?
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, I just relentlessly play guitar, trying to learn things, and I remember, I think I was in grade 8, so there was a band class, and at lunchtime, the music teacher would open up the classroom so you could go play an instrument if you wanted to play guitar or whatever. So I was sitting in there playing guitar, and I heard someone else play "Nothing Else Matters,"
Hmm.
and right away my ears perked up because I knew that was Metallica. And it's not their heaviest song, that's for sure, but nonetheless, I knew we had something in common. So I started talking to him, and um, we kind of started to jam, and he would play guitar and I'd play guitar, and he'd sing, and to be honest, he wasn't really that good. Uh, and we kind of both knew it. So at the time, Guitar Hero just came out as well, and
Right.
we were like playing that video game and discovering new songs, and it was pretty sweet. And I had the thought that like he was kind of interested in drums, so he had an electronic drum kit, or his dad got him an electronic drum kit or something like that. And I had the thought of putting Guitar Hero on practice mode so you couldn't fail the song.
Hmm.
And so we'd plug his electronic drum kit into an amp, a PA speaker, and just mute the TV and go on practice mode, and he'd just watch the TV. And we learned like there was a couple like Metallica songs and some Megadeth songs I think we learned, and we also wrote our own songs. And then eventually he just got a drum kit and he started drumming for Shrapnal. He was the original drummer, and so that's how that kind of started. I got a drummer, and then I just basically convinced my best friend to start playing bass. And originally he said no, but his dad got him a bass for Christmas, so he didn't really have a choice if he was hanging around a lot. So it was the three of us, and we went through a cycle of different guitar players trying to find out if people who would fit. But yeah, so that's basically how that got started. And we played our first gig, and actually the first gig I went to was just down the street from where we jam in Dover, Calgary, Alberta. But it was West of Hell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're from Vancouver, and great band, friends now for sure. And we've played lots of shows together and festivals now. But at that time, I think I was 16 or something, and they let me in the bar early. And West of Hell was playing in Dover, of all places, in Calgary, Alberta.
Hmm.
And they just put on a crazy show. Val up there grinding away at a piece of steel, shooting sparks across the crowd, and just this heavy, aggressive music. It was awesome, and I think they played with Cocaine Mustache, so it was a really great time.
That sounds awesome, man. Yeah. I haven't had the pleasure of seeing them live just yet, but some of the friends that I've made over the last couple of months here, yeah, they say the same thing. There's just like a really, really awesome show, great energy, great live as well.
Yeah, and great dudes as well. I know them personally, and super talented musicians like Chris Schultz, the guitar player. He's in that band. He's actually in both bands, I believe. He's one of my favorite guitar players ever, and he's from Vancouver. So check him out if you don't know him.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll link up some things so that people can reference in the show notes. So we'll kind of figure that out so people can go check out some of these bands and some of the other artists that we'll talk about.
But yeah, that's basically how I got started. Anyways.
That's really cool, man. Yeah. So one of the things that really struck me while listening to like both the demo and then the full length album that you guys have is that emphasis in creating like really catchy riffs. And obviously because it's thrash, it's like super fast and crazy, but it's also melodic, right? So you're not sacrificing one for the other per se.
Yeah.
The groove is very, very strong in a lot of these songs. And so we already kind of went over some of the earlier thrash bands that you fell in love with. So creating the music now for W.M.D, are those the same influences, or would you say that you threw in a couple of extra ones in there?
Definitely thrown in a couple of extras. You know, I always stick to my roots with what I like, because I never forget that feeling that I had when I first saw those shows. But yeah, definitely a lot different influences from, you know, the people at shows. When I'm writing songs, sometimes I think about them and how they'll react, and you know, definitely the groove. The groove is huge. If it's groovy, then I'll definitely like it. If it makes you move.
Yeah, exactly. It's what creates a mosh, essentially.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the writing process has kind of changed now, with Nolan in the band. We've worked extremely hard from when he first joined the band to get to a point where we're just very in the pocket with each other. So we definitely try and emphasize that groove factor, and we're both on the same page on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's also very similar to like what I noticed around, like, beyond just like the riff and stuff like that, is that the way that you've mixed the albums and stuff like that, there are moments between tracks that you let each instrument shine by itself, whether it's like a solo or just there's something around like the tone of like the bass or something that cuts through everything, and then you can really hear it. So I'm curious to know about that process, because as I understand, you also you know, like, mix things as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was basically sitting in the co-pilot seat, produced this album, Lethal Revenge, but for the mixing process as well. It was a pretty excruciating process. We actually went through hell while recording this record. We had to pack up shop and stop for 6 months and then re-pick it up.
Okay.
We were going through a lot during this record. But when it came down to the mixing end of it, by the time we got to that point, me and 𝘊𝘰𝘯𝘕, who's the guy who mixed and produced this album with me, we got very close. I think we were working together for close to a year on this thing, or more, with the break that we had to take. And it got to the point where I was just stay at his house on a little cot and then go to work and then come right to his house after work, kind of thing, and just continue the work and try and get it better and better and better. But most of it, I would say, was pretty organic. I tend to write in a way that kind of leans on each individual instrument in certain moments to create a vibe that I'm kind of searching for, or a dynamic. But some of it was intentional too, and Jan did a great job with kind of doing his thing on that, because I'm not as skilled behind the computer. Definitely, I just know what I want to hear.
Yeah, it definitely comes through. I mean, it's one of those things where you know, metal fans that have quote unquote moved beyond thrash, and let's say like they're like, they only listen to death metal now or just black metal. Whenever they take a step back to the roots, which in this case thrash, one of the things that they sometimes complain about essentially is that it's kind of just the same. And I feel like you and the team have done such a great job to make sure that it doesn't go stale. It still has all of those traditional elements, but it's like you said, dynamic enough, song to song, and then also consumed as a full album, that it's not a dull moment, right? Like there's really cool parts that you throw in there.
Sweet, man. Thanks. It's good to hear. And yeah, you just want to keep it refreshing and interesting for us as well. I mean, we're doing it because we love to do it, and we're not trying to, you know, write the perfect thrash song, but write cool music that makes people stoked and happy to listen to it and be there. It's a lot about the live show for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, and then the last piece that I wanted to touch on when it comes to the writing process is lyrics. And so thrash obviously tends to gravitate towards political, social commentary, and then on like the other end, it's like pizza party, beers, and all that stuff, which is fun. But with your band name, When Minds Develop, there seems to be like this deeper layer of something that you want to communicate. And so I'm curious to know a little bit more about, some of the themes that you've touched on so far, or even just some themes that you're looking to discuss in future work.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was a huge reason why we switched our band name from Shrapnal to W.M.D. Was because it just kind of opened, a bigger door, allowed us to sing about more things. I felt that was me personally. I felt like Shrapnal kind of had its barriers, like we could only sing about certain things. But with W.M.D, we sing a lot about, concepts that have to do with the human element. And our main thing is basically the human mind is the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. You could think about it that way, but we sing about, the things humans have done, and also, in negative ways that have affected our world negatively. Of course, it's aggressive music, so, but also things about real life too. I sing about personal things. I don't let the name of our band kind of define what we sing about. But if I have something to say, or I want to sing or yell about something, I throw it in a song. And that's definitely what our EP that we're going to be releasing is about. Like I said, we had to take about 6 months during our recording of our first album. We went through a lot of crazy stuff. We were like personally sabotaged. So we decided we were going to write some music about how pissed off we were. And so those lyrics are definitely related to those real life experiences and how angry we are. And, just that kind of vibe. And then an album after that, we already have a bunch of music for is definitely more political based with all the stuff that's going on.
So you have an EP coming out, and then you have also material for full length coming out later,
yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, we had this EP and we've been just kind of sitting on it because with the coronavirus, we have a lot of time. So we've been just kind of taking our time, and it's kind of hard to meet up and record and stuff like that right now with everything going on. So in the meantime, we've been in a jam space just writing really sweet music for our next album. Like we're really stoked on what's coming out. I'm personally super stoked on the next album more than I am on the EP now, and I guess that's how it goes. But the EP will be pretty good. Definitely more aggressive. I wouldn't say as melodic parts to it, but I'd say more aggressive in the point that, or in the way that we're, it's kind of more emotional. So it's straight up, I would say.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. So whenever that comes out, I'll definitely make sure to plug it on the channel, so people can check that out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. It's going to be called From the Ashes. Concept. It's kind of a concept EP. It's about, basically the stuff we went through, and someone trying to take us out, and we're just coming from, it's kind of that concept, like if you burn a field, it'll grow back, 10 times stronger, fuller. So it's that concept.
And so, still keeping on the topic of music, I understand that you also contribute to two other bands. So Ravenous and then Outlaws of Ravenhurst.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, because for everybody that's listening, Ravenhouse and Outlaws of Ravenhurst are very different from W.M.D, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
Ravenous is more, I would say, like power metal, a little bit of prog, and then Outlaws sounds definitely more prog, like prog rock type of things.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you're sitting down and writing riffs in general, how do you go about like jumping between the writing process with these bands?
Well, I mean, because they're so different, if it like I can come up with a new riff every day, right? Just like anybody else. So if it's kind of leaning towards that power metal vibe, then I'll be like, oh, and it's good enough. I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll bank that for Ravenous, and then, you know, if it's kind of epic and mysterious, I'll. It's hard. It's really hard to go from Outlaws of Ravenhurst to W.M.D. because I feel like they can both kind of work. Outlaws can be very heavy, like W.M.D. But generally, I'm writing for W.M.D. and I let Rav and Jake and Ravenous take care of the writing for Ravenous. Actually, 2 weeks ago, me and Rav did demo out a Ravenous song that might be on the next album. And when it comes to Outlaws or Ravenhurst, I just send them riffs that I come up with, you know, over the internet, and if they like it, Kenny, who is the guitar master at Outlaws of Ravenhurst, will usually take it and make it better or keep it the same. But it's, yeah, if it's aggressive, it'll most likely be for W.M.D. And if it's a little more lighthearted and fun, it'll be for Ravenous or Outlaws.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you know, as you said, right, like since these projects are all, you know, quite different, how do you think that, you know, working between all of these helps you as a musician in general?
It's huge, actually. I think the big thing for me is just working with different people, and being in a room, in a jam room with different people, and seeing how they flow and how their music works with each other and works with me. That's pretty big, and that helps me grow in that aspect. But also in the live aspect as well, it's pretty surprising, the different scenes, and it's all metal, but W.M.D. will have their fan base come out to a show, and it's, you know, that group of people, and Ravenous will have their group of people, and Outlaws will have their group of people. So if anything, it's allowed me to be connected to a huge wide array of people that are super cool, and they're all different but all connected in the same way, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Even for us here in Vancouver, I definitely see that depending on which bands are playing, there are some folks that come out for everything because they just, you know, they have a breadth of music that they listen to, or they're literally there to just support their friends in the scene. And then others where they specifically come out to shows that, you know, are more towards whatever they listen to on a day-to-day. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about as well is around how the music scene works in Calgary. And then if you want to talk about Edmonton too, that's fine. I don't know how close those two scenes are. So that'll be interesting to know a little bit. But yeah, could you give us a quick rundown of, you know, how you see the scene today?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly tough now with the COVID-19, and it's tough on everyone. But Alberta, I feel, and Western Canada are going really strong. Like, they're getting a lot of worldwide attention. The bands that are coming out now are pretty good bands and making good strides. And yeah, I'd say Calgary is pretty healthy scene. Of course, it's tough with the economy and venues closing and stuff like that for bands to play all the time. But I mean, like, the music that's coming out is just getting better and better, and the production that people are doing themselves, or if they're working together, is getting better and better. What's been really cool during this kind of pandemic is the fact that band members from other bands are working together to do cover songs or to write their own songs or stuff like that. So it's cool to see that, because I don't know if that would have happened if everyone's still, super busy in their own world trying to play shows and rehearse and record and all that stuff. So in a way, it's keeping us all connected by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we got a lot of good bands, and I'm really stoked that the world is kind of catching on. It's nice to see.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm happy to hear that there's, it seems like there's an increase in collaboration because of what's going on right now. And in a way, I feel like that's one of the keys, right, to get through this time, right? Because, hopefully, closer to the beginning of next year, even into summer of next year, we'll be able to resume some more shows at a larger scale. Like, I know that there are certain venues in Alberta that have played very limited capacity shows, whereas in Vancouver, none of that has happened.
Really?
Yeah. And so I think, one of the things that will be interesting is just how outside of the live setting, the scenes collaborate with themselves. And this is obviously like musicians, but also the fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've seen the fans as well, doing things like interviews and stuff like that, which is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when it comes to the live shows that happened here, they seem to go over well. But I mean, honestly, I just can't, I can't imagine a thrash show with people sitting at a table. I mean, it's good to showcase your music, but
yeah,
I do it for the people screaming and just letting themselves go for 45 minutes and forgetting about the world and just kind of being there in the moment, smiling in your face and, throwing a fist up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
But we got a couple show offers, but we just didn't feel right. And also the health risk as well. If someone were to catch it there or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. But they've shut all that down now, officially yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what's going to happen with shows, but I do know one thing. That there's going to be a lot of killer music that's going to come out because of all of this, because we've never, ourselves and all the bands in the world have never really truly had this much time to just be at home and write music. It's it's always rehearsing for a show and going to hang out because your friends are playing shows, so you always kind of put that off to the side. But I really think that all the bands are going to come out with really good music, and I'm really stoked for next year because of that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that's something that, again, a lot of us need to keep in the back of our minds, right? Because yes, of course, we can't undermine the health risk and the impact it's had on the economy and all those things. But that's the thing with music and any type of art, right? It's really one of those things where you need to dedicate the time to it. And in this particular case, with most bands, being at home or just simply having more time than they used to, as you just said, there is that opportunity, right? And so one of the reasons why I think talking about Canadian bands now is even more important is so that when we do bounce back and all of these great albums are going to be, thrown into the mix because of the time that we're in, there will be more people wanting to listen, right? And I feel like that's going to be a really positive thing for all of us across Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was only getting better and better. Like the bands that were coming out with albums and playing shows, the shows were getting better. Production was getting better. Everything is just getting better and better. So this has kind of put a halt to that, but it's kind of all allowed us to all, even if you're not a musician, to self-reflect and do better. And hopefully you can stay positive and wait this wave out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so Another thing that I like to ask people is around like just the life of being a musician, right? And so obviously most people have, you know, like a full-time job, and then they do this because they love it. As a musician though, what would you say is like one of the most important lessons you've learned so far?
Well, as a musician, or as like, I guess you could look at that two ways. There's musicians and then there's touring musicians, and I would say they're kind of two different things.
Okay.
But as a musician, I would say the most important thing that it's taught me is almost to just relax and spend time doing the things you love to do, because it will pay off eventually. So, and as a touring musician, it's to be open-minded. When you're on tour, it's crazy the things that'll happen, or the things that won't happen that were planned for months, and the things you'll run into. So the more open-minded you are, and you know, able to see maybe other sides, the better. I think you kind of see that with a lot of musicians who tour a lot. They just kind of are a lot more less stressed than other musicians, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It's something that I wouldn't have guessed, actually. So it's a really good piece of insight there. Let's say, you know, right now, people that are listening, there's a group of people that are just starting out as a band, or they were looking to release their music, but they're kind of holding back because of COVID and everything. Is there any advice that you would give someone that's just like starting to get into the scene?
Yeah. Well, I know it'd be kind of tough time to just start getting into it right now. But I would say my advice is just release it, release your music, get it out there, you know, get feedback, let people listen to it. If people love it, great. If people don't, then take that and make yourself better. Don't just give up if you don't get noticed right away, or if things don't go your way. Just keep getting better, and ultimately, if you're doing it for the reasons you should be, which is that you love it and that you want to do it anyways, regardless of who listens to it, you'll just continue to get better, and people will eventually listen to your music because you're passionate about it. And yeah, if you're starting out as a band, just do what it takes, like do what you got to do. That's what I would say is, if you got to, you know, get on your bike and ride halfway across the town just to practice, do it.
Yeah, that's solid. It's one of those things where any type of passion project, and I'll throw music in this as well, the hardest thing, it seems like it's to get started, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so once you take a couple of those steps in the right direction, that momentum carries you through. And one of the things that I love about metal in general is that the community, again, in general, is very much supportive. But you need to ask for help if you need it. And then at the same time, you need to just put stuff out there.
Yeah, I honestly find if you're a good person, people want to help you out, and that relates to any aspect in life. If you're a good person, people are going to want to be around you, and just be a good person and strive forward, and things will happen for you.
Awesome. So, Skyler, this is going to be the last couple questions for today.
Okay.
And so, first, I'd like to give you the opportunity to basically shout out any bands or other musicians that you think people should check out. And again, all of these we can put into the description so that it's easier for people to kind of follow through with that.
Yeah. Man, there's a lot of great bands, like I've said. One of my favorites, and we actually got the opportunity to tour with them and became pretty close. They're from Montreal. They're a new thrash band, so don't get them confused with the old band. name, but their name is Reanimator.
Okay.
Super solid thrash, like some of the best thrash, new wave thrash, if that's what you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So check those guys out. They're French, but they sing in English. Fred, the bass player, writes a lot of the riffs. I think the album you should check out is Horns Up. I love that album. They're about to come out with another album, so definitely check them out, and then you can be right in the loop for the new music. But great band. They're from Montreal. Bands from Calgary, I'd say 𝘓𝘓𝘃.
Yeah.
Have you heard of them?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, they're a killer. Damon and Dimitri and the boys, love those guys. Me and Damon go back pretty far, actually. Funny story with him, quickly. I was just walking down the street. We lived in the same neighborhood. We didn't even really know it, but I was walking down the street, and there's this guy with I think it was a Ride the Lightning sweatshirt on, and I could literally hear Ride the Lightning from his earbuds across the street. I was like, holy shit, man. So we ended up hanging out, and yeah, he created 𝘓𝘓𝘃 over the last couple of years, and it's been really great. I love what they've done. And we're actually, for our EP, we're getting the guy that mixed 𝘓𝘓𝘃's album to mix our album, and we recorded the drums at his studio too. I think it's Black Page Studios, but yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah. So, and then I know we kind of touched on this before, but what is next for you and the projects that you have going on?
Yeah, I mean, with Outlaws of Ravenhurst, if you know them, if you check them out, it's a huge concept about these outlaws from Ravenhurst that got teleported to 2020 and are trying to figure out how to defeat Uncle Roger. So we have book 1 and book 2 out. So I suggest listening to book 1 if you like that kind of stuff. Kind of medieval heavy metal, kind of goes from Rush to Megadeth kind of vibes. Then check out book 2. We just put out a EP, and now we're gonna work on book 3. So that's what's next for them. And Ravenous, we're working on our second album right now. We have probably like 15, 20 songs demoed out, mostly by Rav and Jake. So they're just kind of figuring out which are the best songs to go on the album, and we'll get busy recording that this winter. And for W.M.D, like I said, we got this EP. We're just kind of waiting to record it. We have a lot of it recorded, actually. We're just kind of waiting to finish some of the guitars and my vocals as well. And then we'll be getting that out probably as soon as possible, roll out some new merch. And then an album after that, a second full-length album. And we're planning to really go the full length with this album. And, we're going to try and make our masterpiece a reality.
Awesome, man. Well, again, I look forward to hearing that when it drops, and I'll make sure to plug it whenever we have some more information on that.
Awesome.
But yeah, I want to leave the last word to you, and this is basically the question I'm going to ask all of the guests on the podcast. I'm really curious to know, what does metal music mean to you personally?
Oh man, metal, it's definitely a way of life. It's an energy and an excitement that is unlike any other adrenaline rush. It's a moment where you can let everything go and let your anger or excitement or happiness just come out full steam, and you can get it all out and then go back to normal life. It's just a great escape, and it's a healthy one.
Awesome. All right, Skyler, again, really appreciate your time. Everybody check out Skyler Mills from W.M.D. All the links will be in the description.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thanks, man. Take care.